Did you know that in an espresso puck, there are actually 3 things that you have to distribute? 3 things, and they're all independent of each other, meaning that if you get one wrong, then your grounds can channel and your shot's not going to be as good as it could. Now, having said that, dark roasts with your standard traditional baskets, they don't need much of this, okay? And fresh roasts, the stuff that baristas use in cafes, they don't need much distribution. But there are roasts that actually need this, right? Here are the 2, right? There's level, where you just got to get the surface level right and your thickness correct, okay? You know, there are arguments where you can kind of heap it, but generally baskets are quite bent, bowed on the outside, right? And if you get it level, then you can have a what is it called? It's a convex kind of bowing in your puck, because sometimes traditional baskets don't extract well on the sides. So there are arguments that, you know, whether you have it slightly convex or level, you can make those arguments. But I recommend level. Then there are density fluctuations, right? Density fluctuations inside the puck, because when you dump your grounds from the dosing cup or from the grinder, but we recommend the dosing cup, you might have density fluctuations. And if you don't get rid of those and you tamp that down, coffee grounds are not like they don't distribute. So you can have columns of very compacted grounds and columns that aren't very compacted, and the columns that aren't compacted will channel, right? But what's the third? The third is actually down the bottom. And why is that? Well, because in an espresso extraction, the very bottom layer of the puck is actually a highly compressed layer. And believe it or not, the vast majority of the resistance of the puck is in the bottom. And there's 2 reasons for that. Number 1 is the compression. So at the very top, right, grinds experience 9 bars hydrostatic or isocompressive force, right? And water can get through those grinds very easily, right? They just push them aside. But at the bottom here, right, grinds are highly compressed, up to 100 kilograms for a 58 mil, right? That very bottom 1 to 2 mil. That's the first reason, right? But the second reason is fines migration. During the start of your shot, a spectrum of fines, particle distribution fines, will come down through the puck, okay? The larger fines will get stuck early, the medium fines will come down later, much later, get stuck much later, and the smaller fines will get stuck in that. The ultra fines will come out, right? The sub-micron, whatever it is, fines will come out. Some fines will get stuck in that bottom layer, okay? And that will form a filtering layer at the bottom of the puck. That is critical to your espresso. The micron mesh rating of that filtering layer largely governs the type of espresso that you're going to get, because it governs what fines come through into your cup, okay? But getting back to the distribution side of things, the reason why you have to distribute, right, is because sometimes your grinder, if you're grinding direct into portafilter basket, can have an inconsistent grind, right, at the start, as opposed to steady state. It can produce either too large a particle, I think it's typically too large, or it can even produce too fine particles. And it'd be great to actually have, if somebody did like a test or a study where they characterized how good a grinder is at the start versus steady state, what kind of distribution they give, right? Because the more expensive a grinder is, it should provide a really constant or the same distribution, irrespective of the start, the end, well, mostly the start. The start is very important because that's the layer that touches the metal, okay? If your grinder produces an inconsistent grind, okay, give me a second. So if your grinder produces an inconsistent start, okay, looking down on the puck, we have this, okay? And we're looking down on that filtering layer. If that filtering layer has a patch where that's quite coarse, okay, something like this, what's going to happen? Well, all the espresso is going to channel through that. And the reservoir of fines that sits above that, it's got to blow through that. And then water will start to wash it out, and it's just got to channel right in the center. So that's the process of channeling. Channeling doesn't necessarily involve spraying of water. channel is just defined as an imbalance of flow, okay? And the reason for that is because of this. Sometimes the grinder will grind an inconsistent layer, all right? The only way to remove that is to shake the grounds. So there we are, three things, right? Leveling, density, and microscopic distribution in that bottom layer, which is critical. Let's have a look at the recommended puck procedure for VFiPPs, but this is also recommended puck procedure for standard espresso. Okay, the recommended puck procedure for VFiPP plates. Okay, here we go. Grind into the dosing cup. Okay, find a cover where when you shake it, the espresso doesn't really stick to the cover. Okay, shake it for a good 3 or 4 seconds. Now here's the trick: you've got to give it a spin. Okay, give it a spin and clamp as you're spinning. That separates the grinds, okay, from the actual surface, so that when you pour into the basket, all of the grinds separates out. Otherwise, you're going to get some grinds remaining. Now, as you poured that, the bottom of the espresso basket, the thing that you have to distribute, the microscopic distributions, that's already there, okay? That's removed any kind of bias of the grinder grinding some inconsistent grinds at the start, okay? WDT on top. You've got dual WDT kind of processor where these larger needles are doing the density distributions, and these smaller needles, they're just doing the kind of surface puck preparation. You want to make it level, give it a spin. You don't need to get too pedantic about it, because VFiPP removes a lot of the effects of poor puck prep. Give it a tamp, okay, with your favorite tamper, or you can use the J lever when it comes out. And that's it. Put your VFiPP plate on top, and that's your puck prep done. Easy.